Grace Okafor was a simple girl from a small village, whose world turned upside down when she married Jide Adebanjo, a billionaire businessman from the bustling city of Lagos. She thought she was living a fairy tale, but her dream quickly became a nightmare. Jide's mother, the formidable Madame Ronk Adebanjo, despised Grace for her humble origins. Day after day, she poisoned Jide's mind against his own wife, whispering that Grace was nothing but a gold digger who wasn't worthy of the Adebanjo name. The man Grace had fallen in love with disappeared, replaced by a cruel stranger. Jide's love turned to contempt. He insulted her, humiliated her in front of staff, and made her feel worthless. Every day was a torrent of emotional abuse. Grace felt her spirit breaking. When she discovered she was pregnant, a small flame of hope ignited within her. Perhaps a child, their child, would mend their broken home and bring back the man she once knew. But she was wrong. The pregnancy only fueled Jide's anger. He grew more distant, more heartless, his words sharper than ever. Grace spent her pregnancy in fear and isolation, her heart aching for the love that was now just a distant memory. 9 months later, the day she had been both dreading and longing for arrived. Sharp, agonizing pains shot through her body. Labor had begun. She stumbled to Jide, clutching her belly, her voice trembling as she begged him to take her to the hospital. But instead of concern, his eyes filled with a terrifying rage. He grabbed her arm, his grip like iron, and dragged her through their lavish mansion. He didn't stop at the door. He dragged her all the way to the massive iron gates of their estate. With a final, violent shove, he threw her out onto the dusty street. "Don't you ever come back," he roared, his voice echoing in the night. The security guard watched, his face a mask of horror. He wanted to help, but Jide's threat hung in the air. "If you touch her, you're fired." Grace was alone, in unimaginable pain. She tried to stand, but her legs gave way. She began to crawl, leaving a trail of blood on the cold, unforgiving pavement. Cars sped by. People on the sidewalks glanced at her and then looked away, their faces indifferent. It was as if she were invisible. Despair washed over her. Was this where she was going to die? On a dirty street, abandoned by everyone? Just as her vision started to blur, a figure emerged from the darkness. It was Musa Ibrahim, a poor fruit hawker, pushing his old wooden cart. He saw her lying on the road, a crumpled heap of pain and desperation. Without a second thought, he rushed to her side. Seeing the blood and hearing her pained cries, he gently lifted her into his arms and placed her on his cart, among the fruits he had hoped to sell. Then, he started to run. He ran with all his might towards the nearest hospital, his worn-out shoes soaking up the blood that dripped from the cart, his heart pounding with a single, desperate mission: to save her. At the hospital, the doctors were blunt. Grace needed an emergency operation, and it would be expensive. They wouldn't start without a deposit. Musa looked at the few crumpled notes in his pocket, his entire life savings. It wasn't nearly enough. His eyes fell on his wooden cart outside, the only tool he had to earn a living. With a heavy heart, he made a decision. He ran out and sold his cart, his only source of income, for a fraction of its worth. He scraped together every single coin he had and handed it all to the hospital cashier. It was just enough. Hours later, a doctor emerged with good news. Grace had survived, and she had given birth to a beautiful, healthy baby boy. She named him Sunkanmi. When Grace was discharged, she had nowhere to go. She tried to return to Jide's mansion, only to find the locks changed and the guards under strict orders not to let her in. Her own family was too far away and too poor to help. Seeing her despair, Musa did the unthinkable. He offered her and her newborn son a place to stay. His home was a tiny, one-room shack, but it was a palace compared to the streets. That night, and for many nights after, Musa slept outside on the cold ground so that Grace and baby Sunkanmi could have the only mat inside. He worked odd jobs, anything he could find, to buy them food and milk. He treated them not as burdens, but as family, with a pure and selfless kindness Grace had never known. Watching Musa, Grace's heart began to heal. She saw him work tirelessly from dawn till dusk, never complaining, his only goal to provide for her and the baby. She saw the way his eyes lit up when he held Sunkanmi, the way he would sing to him and make him laugh. This man, a complete stranger, was showing her a love more profound than any she had ever received from her billionaire husband. Slowly, she fell in love. It wasn't a fairy tale romance, but something real and deep, forged in sacrifice and kindness. They were married in a simple church ceremony, with only a few neighbors as witnesses. Together, they raised Sunkanmi as their own, a small, happy family built on a foundation of pure love. Years passed. Sunkanmi grew up in poverty, but he was rich in love and intelligence. He attended a crowded government school, but he had a burning passion for learning, especially for numbers. He devoured math books, solving problems that baffled even his teachers. When he was 9, he entered a massive citywide mathematics competition in Lagos. He was up against hundreds of students from the most expensive private schools, kids who had every advantage. But Sunkanmi had something they didn't: a brilliant mind and a hunger to succeed for his parents. Against all odds, the boy from the shack won. He solved every equation, answered every question, and was crowned the champion. The prize was life-changing: a full scholarship to any school in the country and a cash prize equivalent to 50 million Nigerian nairas. The award ceremony was held in a grand hotel. As Grace, Musa, and a beaming Sunkanmi stood on stage, a man in the audience watched, his face pale. It was Jide Adebanjo. Now even richer, but profoundly lonely, he had been at the hotel for a business meeting. He saw Grace, looking radiant and happy. He saw the boy, and in the boy's face, he saw his own features reflected back at him. The realization hit him like a physical blow. This math genius, this celebrated child, was his son. The son he had thrown out with the trash 9 years ago. Consumed by a storm of regret and possessiveness, he stormed the stage, creating a scene. "That's my son," he shouted, pointing at Sunkanmi. "He belongs with me. I'm his father." Musa, the humble fruit hawker, stood tall and placed a protective arm around Grace and Sunkanmi. He looked the billionaire dead in the eye. "Blood doesn't make you a father," Musa said, his voice shaking with emotion but firm with conviction. "Love does. Where were you when this boy needed a roof over his head? Where were you when he was sick?" "I am his father." Grace, no longer the scared village girl, rejected Jide's desperate offers of money and luxury. "You can't buy a son, Jide," she said coldly. Jide, furious and humiliated, threatened to drag them through the courts. But before he could cause more chaos, Musa and Grace hurried Sunkanmi away, escaping the scene. The next morning, a different Jide appeared at their humble shack. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a deep, hollow sadness. He stood there, in his expensive suit amidst the poverty he had created for them, and he apologized. His apology was raw and filled with shame. He admitted his actions were unforgivable. He didn't ask for his son back. Instead, he offered a pact. He would sponsor Sunkanmi's education at the best school, buy them a proper home, and set Musa up with a real fruit business. All he asked in return was to be allowed to visit Sunkanmi occasionally, to be a small part of his life from a distance. He promised he would never again try to take him away. Grace and Musa looked at each other. They didn't need Jide's money for themselves, but they saw what it could mean for Sunkanmi's future. For their son's sake, they accepted. True to his word, Jide bought them a comfortable house and funded a thriving fruit shop for Musa. Sunkanmi was enrolled in the city's top private school. The families began to heal, each in their own way. Sunkanmi excelled in his studies and grew up to become a doctor, dedicating his life to serving the poor communities he came from. Musa and Grace lived a long, happy life together, their love a testament to their journey. And Jide? He spent the rest of his days alone in his grand mansion, becoming a philanthropist, trying to buy back a piece of his soul. On his deathbed, he asked to see Sunkanmi one last time. He apologized again, and Sunkanmi, the boy whose life was saved by kindness, finally forgave him. This story teaches us that true wealth is not in a bank account, but in the heart. A poor man with love is richer than any billionaire without it. And sometimes, the simple kindness of a stranger can echo through generations, changing the world in ways we can never imagine. Thank you for watching.